The drop pod sliced through Creel 9's atmosphere like a whisper, friction-heated steel shimmering in the upper sky. Inside, Gunnery Sergeant Marcus Vale breathed steadily. Oxygen levels, pulse, muscle tension, all under control. The exterior sensors blinked amber, then green. 10 seconds to release. He flexed his fingers inside the glove. 1 breath. 2. The pod blew apart midair in a precision scatter. It was designed that way, fragments to confuse scanners, camo netting to drift across trees, and Vale's own module to plummet silently into the jungle below. Impact. No louder than a branch cracking. Vale rolled out, cloaked in earth-colored polymesh, scanning his surroundings. Creel 9's triple canopy jungle was suffocating, massive purple-leafed flora choked the sky. Insects hummed like static. The soil was hot, alive with microbial movement. Everything wanted to eat something. Green Ghost, boots on the ground, he whispered into his throat mic. A soft click from command was his only reply. No names. No chatter. This wasn't a conversation, it was a one-way mission. He moved quickly but with purpose, boots making no sound thanks to shock-absorbent pads. His rifle, a custom long-shot X-17, was broken down and strapped across his back in segment. It'd be assembled later. When it mattered. Vale reached a rise in terrain, a natural overlook half a click from the Dominion outpost. He dropped prone, sliding beneath a thick root arch covered in bioluminescent moss. He peeled a roll of thermal masking film across the arch's opening, and within minutes, the hideout was indistinguishable from the terrain. From here, he had line of sight on the first target's likely route. He unpacked the rifle slowly, methodically. The weapon whispered into place with each magnetic click. No unnecessary movements. Every twitch was calculated. He unfolded the bipod and synced the optic with his neural implant. The rifle's HUD flickered to life inside his vision. Range, wind speed, target profiles, foliage movement, drone interference. He blinked twice, switching to thermal overlay. Let's see who feels important today, he muttered. Within the next hour, 4 Dominion officers exited the jungle trail in ceremonial armor, black and chrome, more for ego than protection. At their center walked Turvash Ulren, a Kralothi general known for executing human prisoners and uploading the footage to Dominion networks. Vale's jaw clenched. He adjusted his breathing. Wind at 6 kilometers per hour from northeast. Humidity, dense. Shot distance, 1,120 meters. He steadied his scope on Ulren's throat, just above the thermal regulator embedded in his armor. You're going to choke on your last breath, bastard. His finger settled on the trigger. The shot was nearly soundless. The round was subsonic, sheathed in a phase disruption coating, designed not to trigger energy-based shield. The effect was instant. Ulren's head snapped back. He dropped like a puppet with strings cut, eyes wide, mouth frozen midward. The officers panicked. One screamed. Another tripped over his own feet. They scrambled back into cover, calling for air support. But it wouldn't matter. Vale was already gone. He left the rifle stashed, concealed beneath a camo shroud. A sniper didn't carry his weapon when moving through live zones. Too obvious. Too tempting. Instead, he dropped into the underbrush and became part of the terrain. 5 minutes later, Dominion patrol drones zipped overhead. He heard their sonic pulses, the faint buzz of plasma cores. Vale was under a false root system, face down in swamp mud, heartbeat slowed by breath control technique. The drones passed without pause. He activated his visor's tactical overlay. The Dominion had already flagged the jungle quadrant as hostile. Troops would sweep within the hour. Perfect. He headed southwest, toward the rendezvous point with a local rebel contact. It wasn't in the mission profile, but Vale had his reasons. Intel. Supply refresh. And maybe, just maybe, a clue about the next high-ranking target. As he moved, he caught distant snippets of enemy comms through his scrambler. Unconfirmed kill. Repeat, Ulren possibly down. Initiate code Ironwatch. Scan for human traces. Deploy skyknives. Find the ghost. Vale smirked. Already behind you. By dusk, he reached the meeting point, a sunken ruin deep in the overgrown sector. Stone columns half consumed by vines, a collapsed alien temple from a race long gone. He waited in the dark, letting the jungle noise settle. A soft sound, bare feet brushing moss. Someone was there. You're early, a woman's voice said. Vale didn't move. You're late. She stepped into the low light, a grell woman in tattered armor, her antennae twitching warily. She held out a data shard. Command codes. Updated location on Commander Kor's field camp. You want him? I'm here, Vale replied. She hesitated. They're bringing out the Predator drone. You won't get a second shot. Vale took the shard and inserted it into his wrist console. Coordinates loaded instantly. Closer than expected. Riskier too. I won't need one, he said. Before she could respond, he was already fading into the jungle. Back at his hideout, Vale cleaned the rifle in silence. As he reassembled it, his hands moved on their own, muscle memory and instinct forged through years of war. He paused only once, pulling a small photo from a waterproof pouch tucked into his vest. A younger Marine, laughing beside him in training gear, his brother. Vale stared at it for a long moment, then tucked it back in place. Through the lens of his scope, he watched the Dominion scramble to restore order. Officers barked orders. Drones patrolled in erratic patterns. Paranoia took root like wildfire. He checked the time. 3 hours until Kor's convoy passed Sector Theta. Just enough time to get into position. Vale melted back into the jungle, a ghost with a mission. The first shot had been a message. The next would be war. Marcus Vale crouched in the undergrowth, barely breathing. Night had swallowed the jungle, but Creel, 9 didn't sleep. The bioluminescent plants pulsed a soft green glow, casting alien shadows. Vale had moved 12 kilometers since the kill, no trail, no trace, not even a broken leaf behind him. Above, the Predator drones began sweeping low, hissing through the canopy with thermal scanners and sound mapping arrays. Their triangular frames bristled with sensors, each one hunting a heat signature that no longer existed. Vale's suit was soaked in swamp water and smeared with predator musk from a local creature that had tried to eat his boot. He'd killed it silently and used its stench as a new layer of scent camouflage. Primitive trick, but effective. He checked his wrist console. The contact's shard data was solid. Kor's temporary command center had shifted south, nearer to an old mining operation. Arrogant. Exposed. Vale clicked his mic once. No reply was expected. He was off-grid now. Command wouldn't risk direct comms, not with Dominion eyes everywhere. He moved again, this time crawling through underbrush that reeked of ammonia and fungal decay. He avoided natural paths. Too obvious. The Dominion expected him to run. They thought speed meant survival. He knew better. Slowness was life. Then he heard it, alien voices close. He's not far. The wind shifted. I smell human. They were Zalari, a Dominion frontline species. Clawed feet, enhanced vision, and egos as wide as starships. Vale stayed motionless as 3 passed just meters away. One paused. He's probably dead already. Or fled. They said that last time, the leader growled. Then Ulren's head exploded. They vanished into the fog. Vale exhaled silently. By dawn, he reached a cliff overlooking the southern basin. Below, Dominion forces swarmed like ants around a nest. Temporary shelters, mobile command towers, a makeshift landing pad, and at the center, Kor's armored transport, flanked by guards in heavy exosuits. Getting close wouldn't work. Too many eyes. But Vale wasn't here to get close. He crawled into a crag in the rock face, adjusting a rock to cover his position. It wasn't a perfect sniper's nest, no solid rest, some light obstruction, but it gave him time. He set up his rifle again, scanning the patterns of patrols, comms relays, drone routes. All predictable. Dominion precision was impressive, but it lacked flexibility. They followed rules. Vale didn't. He tapped into their local channel. The Dominion had left it unencrypted. Arrogance again. No sign of the human. Sector Gamma clear. Core wants visible trophies. Headshots, if possible. Vale's jaw twitched. He turned his attention to the sky. Clouds were rolling in, bringing static interference. Good. No satellite support meant their drones were blind above 500 meters. He blinked through his scope's modes: thermal, motion trace, light distortion. And there, walking across the pad, was Core. Tall, scaled, violet-hued armor with gold trim. The kind of armor designed to impress subordinate. His stride was cocky. No helmet. A mistake. Core stopped, looked around, then lifted his wrist device. You're listening, human. I know you are. Vale's finger hovered over the trigger. You think you're clever. But we know your kind now. You snipe from the shadows because you're afraid. We evolved past that fear. Vale zoomed in on Core's throat. It was exposed for half a second with every step he took. We're baiting you. You know that, right? Core smirked. But you'll come anyway. Because you're not special. Just angry. Vale didn't fire. Not yet. He spent the next hour observing. Core moved from station to station, barking orders. His convoy was prepping to leave destination, the central rebel settlement. The same one Vale's contact came from. If Core reached that settlement, he'd burn it to the ground. Civilians, resistance fighters, even children, he wouldn't care. But this wasn't just about vengeance anymore. It was leverage. Vale had to make Core afraid to move. He switched to a different objective. One of the comm towers was manned by a high-ranking comms officer. No armor. Just a headset and attitude. Vale zeroed in, calculated wind drift. The angle was bad, trees swayed unpredictably, and his perch was unstable. He took the shot anyway. A muffled thud. The officer crumpled. The effect was immediate. Sirens. Troops scrambling. Core spun toward the tower, furious. Where was the shot? Find it. Sweep the ridge. Too late. Vale was already gone. He retreated into the mountain jungle, sliding through tunnels formed by massive root. As he moved, he tapped into the enemy comms again. He's gone again. Shot came from the rocks. Probably cloaked. We need heavier scans. Raise the Predator's range. Commander Core wants the next attack traced in real time. Vale chuckled under his breath. Good. Let them chase ghosts. By midday, he found temporary shelter beneath a cliff overhang. There, he took a moment to eat, a nutrient gel pack that tasted like mint and regret, and finally allowed himself to rest. But rest meant memories. His brother's face came back. Bright, eager, fresh out of training. Assigned to a peacekeeping mission that turned into a massacre. The footage was everywhere. Dominion troops executing surrendered Marines. One of them, laughing in the background, wore Core's insignia. Vale had memorized that video. He clenched his fists, grounding himself. Emotion didn't win wars. Precision did. Later that evening, as rain began to fall in sheets, Vale climbed a twisted tree that pierced through 3 levels of canopy. He needed elevation. Somewhere new. Somewhere unexpected. From the top, he had a view of the jungle basin, blurred by the downpour. But with infrared, he could see everything. The base still active, guards doubled, drones hovering close to the ground. They were bracing for another shot. They still didn't understand. He whispered into the mic. Not a sniper. A mirror, Core. I'm just showing you who you really are. Marcus Vale watched the jungle drown in rain. From his perch high in the canopy, he could see the Dominion camp tightening its security. Extra guards patrolled with plasma halberds. Drones now floated just above ground, slicing fog with red beams. They were spooked. That was good. Fear disrupted rhythm. Broke protocol. Made them predictable. Vale checked his wrist console. The convoy's departure had been delayed. Core had ordered a drone perimeter sweep every 30 minutes. That meant he was worried. Vale had him thinking like prey. He dropped silently to the forest floor. His gear barely rustled. Each movement a whisper. He didn't head toward the base this time. Not directly. He circled wide through marshy terrain, aiming for a ridge overlooking the supply depot. The camp couldn't function without it. Ammo, fuel, medical packs, rations. Destroy that and everything slowed, including Core. An hour later, Vale was belly down on the muddy slope, staring through the scope at the depot's roof. 3 guards patrolled lazily. A 4th stood inside the generator alcove board. Rushed, sloppy, overconfident, Vale thought. He didn't need to kill all of them. Just the right one. The generator tech leaned against the wall, fiddling with a diagnostic pad. Vale breathed out. Slow pressure on the trigger. Crack. Subsonic again. The body slumped sideways, blood hidden in the shadows. He watched. Waited. It took 40 seconds before someone noticed. The guards scrambled, shouting over each other. He's back. Same shooter. They weren't wrong. Explosions weren't Vale's style. But here, he made an exception. He pulled the trigger again. This time, the round hit the side of a stacked ammo crate behind the guard. A chain reaction followed. The depot lit up, shrapnel and fire tearing through the supply line. The sky turned orange. Dominion soldiers screamed and ducked for cover. Orders shouted in 3 languages echoed across the camp. He retreated immediately, rifle disassembled and packed before the fireball faded. He moved south, toward the ravine, a natural boundary the Dominion had ignored until now. He crossed it fast, using a fallen log slick with moss. Below, acid runoff boiled slowly in the basin. The jungle here was different. Dense, aggressive, alive. Even the plants moved slightly when brushed. Perfect for hiding. Perfect for killing. Later, under the shelter of a twisted rock spire, Vale cleaned the rifle. The rain had stopped, but humidity clung to everything. He listened in on enemy comms again. This time, their tone had shifted. Supply line compromised. Recommend evacuation. Negative. Commander Core insists we hold position. The snipers still at large. Suggest orbital strike authorization. Denied. Core wants him alive. Vale shook his head. Pride. That was Core's weakness. The general didn't want the sniper dead, he wanted to parade him. Make an example. Which meant he was planning something. Vale's instincts flared. He didn't sleep. Didn't eat. The next 12 hours were spent mapping drone rotations, listening for shift changes, tracking conversations that weren't meant to be heard. And then it clicked. Core was moving the convoy after all, under cover of darkness with a double-blind route. But they weren't heading to the rebel settlement. They were drawing him out, using fake data. A decoy trail. A hologram signature. Core wanted him to take a shot. From a bad position. Surrounded. It almost worked. But Vale had seen too many traps not to smell one when it reeked. He reversed course, returning to the upper ridge and waiting until the convoy appeared. Sure enough, there was the target vehicle. Same frame, same escort pattern. But the soldiers were twitchy. Too perfect. Too rehearsed. He watched them for 15 minutes, then let them pass. Vale spoke softly into his mic, "Nice trick, Core." Instead, he went northeast, toward a Dominion field lab that hadn't been mentioned in any broadcast. He'd seen it once in the background of a command update, buried behind layers of terrain data. Easy to miss. But it matched the timing of supply drops Core had ordered personally. The lab wasn't guarded like the base. Just 2 towers, 3 drones, and a couple of scientists. But what it held? As he got closer, he saw cages. Dozens. Some empty. Others held things that shouldn't have been in captivity. Jungle predators, rebel prisoners, even dismembered drone parts stitched into flesh. Vale's stomach tightened. He crept to the side of the building, disabling a motion alarm with a small EMP burst. Inside, he found what he was looking for: project logs on Core's genetic experiment, biofusion tactics, field test plans. It wasn't just about war. Core was testing hybrid weapons, human dominion crossbreeds, forced evolution under accelerated trauma, monsters built from prisoners. Vale uploaded every file into his console and set charges around the perimeter. This lab wouldn't exist by sunrise. As he moved toward the final cage, something shifted behind the bars. A young human, maybe 16, barely conscious, scarred, dehydrated, but still alive. The kid looked up, blinking. "Are you real?" Vale crouched. "You're getting out. Hold still." He cut the locks, draped the boy over his shoulders, and exfiltrated into the tree line as silently as he'd come. The charges blew 10 minutes later, bright enough to light half the jungle. Core would know exactly what got hit. That night, Vale found shelter in a vine-covered tunnel system from the old Creel mining wars. He treated the boy's wounds, rationed water, and sent a tight beam burst to command. Rescue needed. Civilian recovered. Package includes classified intel. Core compromised. He didn't say more. He didn't need to. The boy stirred. "Why are you doing this?" Vale didn't answer right away. He adjusted the sling on his rifle, checked the horizon for movement. Then he said quietly, "Because they never expected someone like you to live." The evac ship came low, skimming just above the trees to avoid detection. No lights, no beacons. Vale guided it in using his wrist console, buried deep beneath the canopy. The boy, Callan, was asleep, wrapped in a thermal blanket beside a rock shelf. Malnourished, traumatized, but breathing. For Vale, that was enough. When the drop team landed, they moved fast. No chatter, no confusion. Vale handed them the shard with Core's bioweapon data. "Get that to command. They'll know what to do." The lieutenant nodded. "And you?" "I'm staying." A pause. "Orders were to extract you too." Orders changed. Vale turned away before she could argue. He knew how this had to end. By dawn, he was back in position. The ridge overlooking the Dominion command was quiet. Half the camp had pulled out overnight. The lab's destruction had rattled them. But Core was still there. Vale knew he would be. Pride didn't let a man like that run. He lay prone, scope trained on the central structure. The perimeter was lighter. Many troops reassigned, thinned to defend against a broader attack that wasn't coming. One man did this, Vale thought. And they're preparing for an army. Inside the command tent, movement. Then, Core stepped out, barking orders. His armor was sealed this time. Full body plating. No arrogance now. Just fury. Vale listened to the comms. "Find him. I don't care what it takes. I want his head nailed to this gate." A pause. "Alive if possible. Dead if necessary." He spoke like a man on the edge. Cornered, humiliated, dangerous. But Vale wasn't afraid of danger. Not anymore. He spent the next 2 hours crawling into a new nest. It wasn't ideal, exposed on the flanks, minimal cover, but it gave him what he needed: a direct angle into the command tent's side entrance. Core would return there. Eventually. And when he did, Vale wouldn't miss. He adjusted his scope, cycling through atmospheric filters. Wind was light. Visibility optimal. Rain wouldn't return for hours. He waited. Till. Focused. Breathing slow. He replayed his brother's face in his mind. That final smile. Then the silence that followed. Not vengeance, he reminded himself. Justice. Movement. Core stepped back into view. Alone. He was speaking to someone on his wrist console. Pacing. Enraged. He's just a human. A sniper. One man doesn't shift an entire campaign. You tell command I'll handle this personally. He turned, pulling off his helmet to emphasize the word. Vale had what he needed. He exhaled. Time slowed. Trigger squeeze, smooth. No hesitation. The bullet ripped through the air like a whisper. And ended Core mid-sentence. Chaos erupted. Troopers scattered. Sirens blared. Drones launched in every direction. But there was no second shot. No trace. Vale had already vanished, moving fast through the underbrush. His pack light. Rifle stowed. He didn't look back. Kor was dead. The Dominion's command structure collapsed within hours. Without him, confusion spread through the ranks. Some units surrendered. Others fought aimlessly, leaderless. Command, when they finally responded, was too late. Vale reached the evac point 2 days later, far beyond the Dominion's final sweep. A stealth frigate took him aboard without fanfare. He collapsed into a bunk and didn't wake up for 16 hours. When he did, command was waiting. General Harrow stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed. "You broke every protocol." Vale nodded. "Worked, didn't it?" Harrow didn't smile. "The data you recovered?" "It exposed 4 bioweapon labs across 3 sectors. We shut them all down. You also saved a dozen civilians and torpedoed a major offensive before it launched." Vale rubbed his eyes. "You're welcome. We could use more like you." "No, you don't," Vale replied. "One's enough." Harrow studied him. "You're not done, are you?" Vale didn't answer. Weeks passed. His actions spread in whispers. The story of a lone human sniper who dismantled a Dominion war effort rippled through the resistance. Some called it myth. Others swore they saw him. To the Dominion, it became a cautionary tale. Check the ridgelines. Remember Creel, 9. Don't underestimate the quiet ones. And to every soldier who'd ever felt like a speck in the shadow of giants, Marcus Vale became something more than a man. He became the lesson.